All right, episode number 1, AI Growth Hacking Podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Best. I'm with my younger brother, Addison Best. Hello, Addison.
How's it going, guys?
How are you doing, Ad? I call him Ad because it's shorter and easier. You can find us at aigrowthguys.com. This is, as I said, episode number 1, but this is probably our 400th podcast. We started doing podcasts when we're both from Canada. We were both living in China for over 10 years, which is a whole other story we're going to get to. But we were doing a pretty popular podcast over there for our career for a long time, Ad, in English, and we had like 20, 30 million downloads. So we're not exactly new to the whole thing, although we're new to doing this version. We started it, the original one, well before smartphones. I was looking at it. I was going to say it's before color televisions, but I don't think that is exactly true. But we're talking the early 2000s when podcasting just came out.
Yeah, we were around since the beginning, and now we're getting back into it because there's a lot of cool stuff happening. And now we're learning about AI a lot, and it's a good time to jump back in. Even though some might say it's a little late to the game, I argue that it might be early to the game in AI podcasting, especially.
Absolutely. I think we're still in literally the first inning here, to use a baseball analogy. And what we're doing is talking about not only the latest in AI, which a lot of people do and sort of cover really the same thing. We're going to talk about how to actually use it to improve your own life and especially to earn more money online. Not the kind of black hat scammy stuff, but how to actually leverage this technology. And we are both using it all the time. We've been teaching a popular course on Udemy as well, how to use it. But we're going to show everything that works, doesn't work, and give examples that are actually useful instead of just copycat stuff of what everybody else is doing. Like we won't show, another example of how to create a snake game, probably.
Well, we might, but I guess we should at least have a reason why we're showing the snake game. But I doubt we'll be doing that. As Andrew said, we're going to be showing you how to actually make money, how to market your own kind of show. We've been making money for years. Basically, our whole careers, we've only built our own stuff online for over 20 years and made money that way. And now we're using what we've learned and AI to leverage and hopefully make more money.
And we're talking both digital media to earn money, having a popular show, SEO, the whole thing, popular websites, plus our health supplement business that's raking in quite a bit. We're still doing that. So physical products, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, one thing we're going to do is put this on YouTube. Not sure if you're watching it there or not, doesn't matter, but we're going to be chopping some of the show up into smaller chunks. And we've got 3 stories today, Ad, that we're going to get into, or 3 topics. And the first one is talking about the latest thing of Google Notebook LM. And if you have not used it yet, you absolutely should, because it's a neat thing and it's free and it's the best thing I would say that Google has released since it's jumped into the AI arms race, and it has gotten off to a pretty terrible start, but this is a game changer for them.
Yeah, I think it's super cool. You showed me the example, and Andrew's going to show it again pretty soon. But I was surprised with the quality, and it actually sounded like a real podcast. Like I've heard AI voices kind of talk and sound reasonable, but they don't. The dialogue, the conversing together, is the impressive part.
Yes. So basically, what it does, if you just Google Notebook LM, and you hop over there, you can set it up. Maybe I'll just share my screen for a minute. Where do I do this? Bloop, and let's share it. Tell me when you're seeing that ad.
I will tell.
Uh huh. Should be seeing it.
It's starting to pop up. I see your screen now. Yeah, I don't see the tab yet.
What do you see now? What am I on? Do you see the Medium article?
I see the yeah. Now I do. Now I do.
All right. So this is my article on medium.com. I think maybe a lot of you have seen some of my articles there, and that's how you even got into seeing what we're all about. But I wrote this recently. I'm just going here. I talked about Google Notebook LM, and what I want to do is just play what it made. But I guess before I do that, the idea with Notebook LM is you can upload anything to it, any PDFs, website links, just text files, whatever. And then you say, you basically press one button, and I'll just show you quickly. So I think that this is when I'm in here. So you just upload a bunch of stuff into here, into this chat, and then you click load, which I'm not going to do. That takes a few minutes. But then what they do is they create a whole conversation, which is really neat, of two real life like sounding people having a dialogue about that topic. So it's an interesting way to learn a new topic, and it's pretty impressive that they're able to do it because they sound lifelike. You don't have to put anything in there, or you don't have to put much training or anything. And it's a one click deal, and it sounds like a real sort of morning show, but it could be about a complicated topic, and it makes it's a different way to learn about it. And it's pretty impressive. So I'm just going to play the audio file here for about, I don't know, a minute, just so you get the idea of what I made. So what I typed into this, I just said, make a dialogue about, what was it? Earning money with affiliate marketing using AI. And I actually put that into ChatGPT and then cut and pasted whatever they said and threw it into Google Notebook LM. And then they made this whole dialogue. So here it is.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive.
Excited to be here.
Today we're diving into the world of AI. But not just any AI. We're talking about AI that can create podcasts that sound like you and me having a chat.
Right.
And how this can help boost affiliate sales.
Okay, so we're looking at AI in the context of affiliate marketing.
Exactly. And the really interesting thing is this isn't about, replacing us with robots.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It's about giving people a new tool to make the most of what they're already creating.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So how does it work? What kind of AI are we talking about specifically?
Well, we actually looked at a bunch of different articles, but the one that really stood out was about Google's NotebookLM. Have you heard of that?
I have. I'm really interested to see where they're going with it.
Yeah, me too. And this seems to be it. So basically, instead of just hoping people will, read your blog post,
Right.
you can feed them to this tool, and it'll transform them into a podcast conversation.
Wow. That's wild.
Right. And it's not just, reading the blog post out loud.
So it's like a conversation about the content.
Exactly.
That's really interesting.
I know. Let's say you've got a post about, the top productivity tools for freelancers.
All right, so I'm just going to stop sharing my screen here. Are we back on at? I think you get the idea, but that is pretty impressive. Honestly, it probably at this point, since this is our first one for a while ad, they probably sounded better than we do at this point, to be fair.
I think they sounded great. And the cool thing about it is they can also give a summary of, the article or whatever you feed them, get it to give analogies and explain it in an easier ways, especially if it's a complex topic. That's what I like about it. And it's not just the article regurgitated, which is, you've seen that in a lot of things. It just plays it. It's not that at all. It actually is a pretty good podcast about the topic.
So it adds some insight. It's like two people discussing something, and it's almost like a teacher and a student, and the student could ask some interesting questions, or can you explain that a little more, or perhaps give an analogy. And it's an easier way to understand a topic often, to have that interaction rather than just reading something or listening to an article being read. Another thing I've seen people do in terms of earning money from it is they'll have a blog on their website. They'll take that blog, put it in there, and then they'll create this dialogue, then they download the audio file and put that into like at the top. So it's different content, it's more content, and then it increases stuff like the time on site. So people might read the article, they might click on that, and it adds a multimedia layer. You'll learn that we don't care that much about SEO anymore. We used to, and we still get a lot of Google traffic. There's a whole long story with that. Oh, Google's changing. It's so AI based. But the point is, currently, that kind of stuff probably does work to some extent. Just to take that, add that interesting content, and throw it on each blog, that is one use case of it. Can you think of any others other than just sort of learning something for yourself?
Yeah, I think it's cool if you embed the topics that are already there and just have it in a different format. And I don't know if you'd use it and try to pass it on as a real podcast, but you probably could if you really had good prompts and good topics. It would be interesting to do a case study where you actually turn that into a podcast and see how you did on iTunes or whatever.
I'm sure people will do that. It will get flooded. They'll probably start banning that if that's all you're going to do. But on some obscure topic where there isn't a lot of competition, that might be useful. Another thing is, because it does add interesting insight, what you could do is start with some information, put it in there, get the entire dialogue, which is just like a new thing, take the audio, transcribe that back into text, whatever they say, and then make an article based on those new insights, which could be a slightly different one. I haven't tried that yet, but it seems like a reasonable way to get new insight onto some content. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's great just for summarizing something. If you don't want to read a whole long thing, you could just have that part as the audio as well. You don't necessarily have to have a long podcast about it. You could just probably just say, make me a summary of it that's shorter than the article and I can listen to it. So if you're driving or whatever, you're at the gym, you can listen to the article as when you where you can't read it.
Listen to it in the podcast format rather than like a read the article to you type of thing. The other thing that I think where we are going, I mean, you can kind of do this now with ChatGPT, I suppose, but is train like you interact with that podcast. So you can basically be a human guest. You can't do this right now, but if you could be a human guest with those two hosts, so you're the third one, and you can on if they can on the fly adjust what they're saying to what you are going to say, that could be really neat. Like if we had those two on this podcast right now, if we're not thinking about, basically they might add some interesting points if we could just throw it over to them sometimes and then ask them to clarify, basically like they're real guests. That's how realistic they sound, and they seem pretty knowledgeable. They weren't making anything up, but it did seem pseudo creative. So I think that would be neat, and that's probably where we're going. I was impressed with how lifelike it is and how creative it seemed, because it wasn't I don't know, impressed me across the board.
Yeah, as soon as it gets to be real time, we will definitely have, at least as a trial guest, an AI host or co-host or whatever you want to call it, and hopefully we can ask them questions and getting them researching answers while we're babbling about it, and they can do fact checks and stuff in real time and say like, "Hey, you guys missed something, or you might want to share this."
Yeah, so that's definitely where we're going. And then you're not just listening to AI, you're using it to augment what you're doing, keeping humans in the loop, but adding that's sort of a key too. I think some people get lazy with it and they think, wouldn't that be great? We can just click a button and then you have all this AI stuff. The problem is it's the same thing as why not give everyone $10 million, is it's not going to work. Because if you have that technology, so does everybody else. So what? You're going to make a blog with 7 million articles. And I read an article where somebody did that and it was working for a while. But like if everybody has that, then there's not enough people to read it and everything will get buried. So you have to think about what can you do to keep yourself in the loop, and what can you do to add some personality or whatever Because if you think it's going to be 100% AI and you do nothing with just a click, well, everybody is going to have that. Everybody has that thought. Let's put it that way. It's not going to work. So anyway, that could be good for that topic. Before we get into the next one, what are your thoughts on that overall?
I think the thing with that type of content, if everyone can do it, it becomes kind of the same thing. So even though even if they were decent articles, they're all regurgitated, all the same content. So effectively, they're useless because they're already there. It's already been said. If you don't have any real opinions or any distinctions, you shouldn't be producing that with AI or yourself anyway. There's no point doing that anymore, because the information's there. If you're going to say nothing, you should probably just say nothing.
I guess I would have to agree with that, Ad. So to conclude, you need to keep yourself in the loop to some extent, add some insight, or you're just going to be, in the sea of garbage with everybody else. All right, next topic here is OpenAI O1 preview, which is their quote unquote thinking model that they released not long ago. And there are some mixed opinions about this, and I have some as well. But overall, I would say most people are impressed with it. And what are your initial thoughts of this O1 preview, the thinking model that OpenAI released to the paying customers? And of course, we are paid customers, so we've tried it quite a bit.
I think it's a great start because it actually just removes prompts, so you don't have to keep asking ChatGPT a bunch of stuff. At least it thinks about more about what you're asking it to do and come up with a better answer. Yes, of course, it's not perfect, and you may have to keep prompting a little bit more, but it's a good start. I think people are so spoiled with AI now, they're like, oh, yeah, but this doesn't work for some reason and it's not perfect. Yes, but you're still supposed to be there. People are just getting so lazy and they don't even want to use AI to write a few sentences, I find.
Right. So basically, what this does is you ask it to do something, and instead of just spitting out the first answer that comes to mind, it sort of prompts itself, says in the background, it runs a lot of experiments. Nobody knows exactly how it works, but the general idea is it'll say, like, it does chain of thought prompting, which is explain your reasoning, of how you are thinking this problem through. So it starts to say, okay, first I'm going to do this, second I'm going to do this, third I'm going to do this. Then it gives a couple of examples of, a few different answers, and then it goes and evaluates those answers, goes and rereads the question or the prompt that you asked, and goes and lines it up and says, does this work? If it doesn't, it goes and tries something else until it actually works. And then it finally, after sometimes it could be almost a minute of thinking, which is a ton of computer time, like a real human minute. You can imagine how many processes it goes through, and then it spits out an answer then instead of right away. And it's so much more likely to be correct than if you didn't do that. And the interesting thing is these models actually didn't improve in order to do this. They just threw on this new scaffolding, essentially, this new this like software architecture that just prompts itself a bunch of times before answering. So the next model, GPT-5 or whatever, will still have this capability by throwing the scaffolding, and the answers will get, like, it's the point is, it's amazing how much better you can get an answer without improving the model.
Yeah, exactly. And I actually did a real example is I made a WordPress plugin before with GPT 4.0, and it took quite a bit of prompting to get me to build the plugin. And then I tried this new model. It probably saved me, maybe 80% of the work now. Like, it's way less prompting to get the same result because now it thinks, it plans, it adds a bunch of layers, then it builds the code, and it kind of checks it as it's going. Whereas before, the GPT 4.0 model would just spit out an answer without even really thinking about it. It was pretty good, but it made a lot of errors in logic and strategy. This one actually kind of makes a plan and then executes and then evaluates. So there's a lot more things happening.
Right. So there's a famous example, like if you don't use GPT, like this new one, if you just say how many R's are in the word strawberry, it even gets that wrong. It says there's two instead of three because it just spits out whatever it almost feels on a gut level. But this one, it'll say, well, let's think about this. Let's count them one by one. And then it goes back. Well, I guess, I think it's two. And then it checks. Well, no, it looks like there's three. And then it answers three. And of course, it does much harder questions than that as well, like strategy type things. So I said, build a sentence where it's a 10-word sentence, and the first word starts with the letter B, and the second word starts with the letter F, and the third word back to B, and then F, B, and F. And you have to make them all the words go like that. These are very hard for the other models because it just spits out something and then it gets stuck just like a human would get stuck. That'd be hard, right? If you think like Brian found, and then you got to think of a B word, and you can get stuck if you don't plan it out properly. But with these thinking models, they do work. So that's a pretty neat discovery. And then another thing is, in the show notes, which I'm reading right now, I don't know if you can decipher this, but I was camping a few times this summer. And you know those camping things where like it's basically like a public bathroom where if you go wash your hands some places, you press a button and then you can only wash your hands for about 5 seconds worth of water, and then you got to press the button again, and it's kind of annoying. Well, this is the same thing, but it was a shower, so you press the shower button because they don't want people wasting water, and you get about 30 seconds of shower time, and then you got to go press it again, and I probably had to do it 20 times or so to get all the soap off, which is kind of annoying. But that whole thing reminded me of how these other models essentially, they're essentially like these camping showers where every prompt on like a GPT 4.0 type of thing only gives you a little bit of electricity. So for example, if you prompted something like, write me a 300-page novel with, you know, like you give the whole topic, the whole setup, and you say put photos in it and everything. GPT 4.0 could technically do it, but there's no way it would. It wouldn't even. It would time out, but after a few pages, and it wouldn't even put the photos right in there. And the reason is that it would sense that, oh, geez, this is going to take a ton of bandwidth, a ton of power. So we are just going to stop the prompt. But this other one, this thinking one, gives you a lot more than that initial one. And I think that's a huge one. And as costs go down, because they're going down very quickly, this should get better and better because they'll give you a lot more electricity for the same dollar amount.
Yeah, and it should be, at least theoretically, a lot more efficient later on as well. So this is really, again, going back to the original ChatGPT. We're just starting out again. Now they're starting to think. Now we have these LLMs, which are already pretty good. So even if the LLMs don't get that much better, I think just the thinking part and the software on top of the LLMs will make it way better soon. So they don't even have to improve it that much, what they already have, in my opinion.
Right, just even as a cost alone. Like imagine if instead of giving you 3 cents of electricity and you never improve, to Ad's point, the GPT-4 model, imagine if you allowed like $25,000 worth of electricity per prompt, which is an insane number, but like in 5 years that might only be a few cents as it comes down so quickly. So imagine if you were to currently give that, how much more compute you could get. So you could say, make 10,000 examples of this, then go see if you can improve each one, and then triple check everything on against everything that's online. And you could just keep going and going and going until you got a really good, really accurate answer. But currently, because it's so expensive still, it's just usually spitting out the first thing. So these models, like Ad said, don't really even need to improve that much as long as the pricing gets better. And apparently that is getting better faster all the time. Like on
Right.
a
So
like
we'll see what
90% a
happens.
year or something.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens in the next few models, GPT-5 plus a new version of this. It should start getting substantially better and even more noticeable. Like I think like that's why things are popping up like now, like that notebook LLM that we talked about earlier, that you can now make a podcast that sounds like a real person now, even with the ums and what do you think about this? And like it sounds like really legitimate as a person, and that didn't exist before, even close to the original Chat GPT.
No, and speaking of that, and that's not today's topic, but did you notice and have you tried that now you can use the advanced voice mode on GPT? I think they announced that yesterday, and I tried it. You can go on there, pick a voice, and you can say like, "Speak to me in a giggly whisper," and it does, and have like certain personalities, like they did in that demo. It's finally here, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, those are all getting way better, and as hopefully we'll have our own robot co-host soon, and maybe we won't even be in the podcast at some point. I guess at that point anyone could make it, and then we'll really be in a new era of AI. I guess AGI, if they can, if we don't even have to be on the podcast
Oh,
for
I
people
think I
listening.
think we are going to be on that ad. But anyhow, so that's pretty cool. And they haven't added into this O1 preview. They have not added multimedia yet, but clearly they will. I think this will be great for things like image generation because currently, if you ask it for an image of something and it's very specific, excuse me, it will make an image, but it'll often miss out on some of the details. Like if you say, I want like 10 different things in the photo and I want it to look like this and make sure I'm wearing this and my shoes are this color and whatever, it won't do it all perfectly currently. But if you can add one of these thinking things in there where they can adjust incrementally the photo or the image, I think that will be amazing.
Yeah, it seems like OpenAI hasn't really focused on the image generation part for a while. Like DALI 3 is so far behind Flux and all those other things coming out. My guess is at some point they'll have a new model that's on par with that, more of a diffusion model where it actually makes realistic photos and then you can add all those fonts and everything and really make some cool stuff. They haven't been talking about it, but I'm sure that's in the background. They know that they're, missing the mark a little bit there.
And I also think though it's expensive to create images and other things are doing it. People are still paying for Chat GPT, so they're almost thinking, why bother? Plus, and I think this is a big one, is because they're so like big, wealthy in the media, there are so many lawsuits that could be like, where did you get that photo to train on? There's a lot more animosity in that art generated space. Did you make this? And there's more lawsuits coming. So I think they're a little bit afraid of that. But to Ad's point, I think in the background, they're probably whipping up something on that front. They should be anyway.
I think they are. Just like they came around with, or started with that Sora, that video generator. I'm sure it's just all part of it. They have a bigger kind of a goal than some of them. A lot of the other AI competitors, they're kind of doing less in a way and good at one aspect. But OpenAI really is trying to create AGI, and that's their whole thing. They're not doing one thing. That's why they're adding this thinking layer and a bunch of stuff. They're trying to be the forerunner and create it and then everyone else has to catch up. You can tell that that's how they're building.
I think that's right. And I think it's also worth noting that because there's so much competition from Anthropic, like Claude, all that stuff, Google, even Microsoft, like there, and then all the open source stuff, Meta, and a million other things. The competition alone is also really speeding this stuff up, like to an insane level, I would have to say.
Absolutely. So I don't know if you have that many more points about this particular model or if we should move on to another topic.
I think we'll move on because that's enough for that. But we will be going over details how to use this specifically to help out. The next one is less about AI, more about earning money. Although we will weave some AI stuff. It's a topic that we are currently thinking about. is Medium versus Substack. What is the difference? Which one is better? Which one's easier to build an audience, easier to earn money on? Pros and cons, how to use them. Can you use AI in them? Blah. Just Medium versus Substack. I've read some articles on this. I don't think people are getting it right. So let's give our insights. What's the first thing that you notice about the two, and what do you prefer?
Well, so far I've been writing on Medium for a while now. Originally, Andrew and I started AIgrowthguys.com. We were publishing quite a few articles there, and we weren't getting a ton of Google traffic. We've been writing web articles for many years, and we used to get a ton of traffic, and we were thinking, okay, this is a little bit strange. Why aren't we getting so much traffic? So then Andrew started writing on Medium, and he was like, how am I getting like 1,000 views a day on one article? If I wrote the same thing on, on my website, I would get basically no traffic. So Medium is great in the sense that it gives you a lot of traffic if you have a good article. It's like a social media aspect in a publication. They have a lot of eyeballs on it almost automatically if it's decent content with their algorithm.
Right. So it's amazing. Like if you write an article on your website, it can get buried unless your website has a high page authority. You should still have a website, generally speaking, but you get so much more bang for your buck just writing on Medium. And that's better than Substack in terms of search engines. But also, as Ad was saying, a lot of people just go on to Medium and start reading. They have millions of people looking around, and they read it almost like a newspaper. There's a whole bunch of different authors and a whole bunch of different articles, and if you read one, then you get related ones. When you write an article, you can put that article in 5 different tags. So let's say you're writing about um, like that GPT model before. You could say, well, ChatGPT is a tag, AI, artificial intelligence, prompt engineering, these kind of things. You get 5 of them, and people find them on these lists because they're looking for these lists. Plus, you can throw it in a publication, which maybe I'll share my screen again quickly just to show something. And actually, we have a course that you can go to AI Growth Guys and check it out. We also have an email free course sign up to what do you get? You get a free 5-day course. And we go into detail in this course about how to make money from Medium. That's just an aside there, but I'll just give a quick overview. Let me know when you see the Medium article.
I'll let you know.
Okay.
Okay, I see the Notebook LM
Yeah,
one.
so this is on Medium here. So this is me, 5,000 subscribers. I've written less than 100 articles, getting like about 100,000 views a month or so. So you can see 5K there on the screen. Now this, Andrew Best in Artificial Intelligence in Plain English. There's 11.5K followers here. This is a publication. So you can write in these publications, and then, this is other authors who also write in this publication. And then more people find you this way because they might just go to the publication. And that compares to Substack. Maybe I'll stop sharing the screen. That compares to Substack in the sense that you don't really get those brand new eyeballs very easily if you write on Substack. It just sort of goes into the abyss. It's not as easy to get on Google. And if people don't already know you, it's not that easy to start creating something out of nothing. So that's a huge benefit of Medium right there. Thoughts, Ed?
It's a huge benefit. Yeah, you get the eyeballs, but you're also not allowed to do that much with it. You're supposed to write an article. They don't really want you promoting that much external stuff. You're allowed to put a few links and stuff to your other website and whatever at the bottom of your articles. Some publications have a lot of rules. You're not really allowed to put anything. So, and it's hard to collect emails with Medium. They don't you don't get that many email subscribers and you don't own your list. Medium kind of does it for you. So if you ever wanted to move off of Medium or promote other stuff, you're kind of stuck with whatever Medium gives you. which is good, but you're kind of limited in that
Right.
sense.
So you get a lot of eyeballs, but like I said, they have a bad built-in email collecting thing. The other thing that's, I guess, a negative is people don't go there to read you. They go there to read a bunch of people. Whereas Substack, it's more about just you. It's almost like your personal mini website. So that is a difference. And Medium, like I'd say probably more than half the articles are behind a paywall. And the idea here is people pay $5 a month, which isn't very much, to read unlimited content on Medium. And if you put your own content behind a paywall and a certain percentage of people who are also paying, and there's millions of paying customers read that, you might get a couple cents per read if they spend 30 seconds or more on there. So they don't have to subscribe to you per se, but if they're one of the millions of people who are paying and then they read your article, you get a few pennies there. And it's probably easier to start making some money on Medium doing it that way than Substack, where nobody's reading it and they have to pay for your private thing. And like, let's say it's $10 a month, they're giving that just for your thing instead of all the Substack writers. So you get a lot more on Medium, I would say, unless you've really built something, pretty impressive on Substack.
Yeah, if you're on Medium, people subscribe to Medium. If you're on Substack, they subscribe to you. It's a personal thing versus like an everybody thing. So it's a little bit different, and they both have their use cases, and I think they're both good. But you do hear a lot of people switching from Medium to Substack, and I think Substack has a big benefit in the sense that you can monetize your own brand and start charging a membership. Medium does not have that.
Right. So Substack is amazing as an email collector. Everything's about email. If you know anything about earning money online, email is where it's at. That's where you make most of your money. By the way, you can sign up to our email in the description link. We won't be trying to get money all the time at all, but it's just overall, it's a good way to earn money from a larger list. You have to give them benefits to subscribing. But the point is, Substack is really good at this. So if you subscribe in there, it gives you um, you have that whole email list. You can go email them every time a new article comes out. You can put half your content if you want behind a paywall. They're both free to use. Substack charges 10% of um, paid subscribers. But what we do actually, and we'll put a link to this too, if you get 20% off, if you click on this, we actually use Medium plus Beehive email marketing, which has some benefits of Substack plus more. And so we collect a lot of emails through our Medium articles by sticking in a Beehive email link in there. And maybe I'm going to go back quickly, just share my screen for a second, just to show how that works. Um, let's see. I wish I was quicker at this, but tell me when you see this article ad.
Well, I don't. Okay, now I see you're on your channel.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll just click on a random article that I wrote. And then I will say something like, you can also sign up for my newsletter. So if you click that link, this is a Beehive thing. So are you seeing that there, Ad? So
Yeah,
that is just a link to sign up for Beehive, or not to sign up for Beehive, to sign up for our email list. That if you don't put that in, it kind of gives Medium some of the benefits of Substack, I would say.
it does. It's just more you have to set up all that stuff yourself, whereas Substack, the email marketing is already built in the monetization. So the cool thing about Medium, though, and using it more like Substack, you can build the tools yourself or connect with other parties like Beehive that do it for you and essentially get the benefits, I think, of Substack. But it's hard to say because we haven't used Substack as much. And there might be other benefits that we're missing because we haven't used it as much. But that seems to be the benefit, is that it's already built in and you can monetize your own individual brand easier on
And it's
Substack.
kind
A
of a
lot of people
cool
are loving it.
brand. Like if you if you have a YouTube channel and you're kind of well known somewhere else and you're looking to monetize your private list, saying, go follow me on Substack, a lot of people do that and they're sort of used to paying, I guess, because a lot of people do make a ton of money on there. So if you're already a big figure and you want to monetize, a private feed of that, Substack's a good way to go. They're also doing more multimedia stuff. Like now you can put a podcast in there. So we're going to probably use both and see what happens. And readers care about you more on Substack. It's all about you personally. It's not just random articles. So Substack, if you can get the readers, it's good at building up your brand. Medium gives you, I would say, more exposure, and it's easier to make a splash on there. And I would say the conclusion is both are great. They're changing all the time. You 100% should sign up to both and just see. You don't have to spend equal time on both. I do more Medium at the beginning. That's just me, maybe, but I would do both and just get a feel of it, see how to use them, and then Medium plus Beehive. Again, we got our link there for a deal. Is a great option to add email there, which you really should do if you're writing on Medium, because collecting emails is more valuable than pretty much anything else you can do.
Well, it is, especially because you can keep engaging with your audience and people that like your stuff. If you don't have an email or something, you didn't collect it, you can't re-engage with your audience. You just have to hope that they find it again or bookmark your website or keep coming back. But they have no idea when did you produce new content. They really have nothing to come back to you. It's almost like if you met somebody and say like, oh, if you didn't get their phone number, you never see them again. Like you need some way of re-engaging with these people, and email is a great way to do that because it's not very intrusive and people are used to getting emails if they subscribe to them. So, and they're not mad about it, and then you can keep sharing what you're doing.
And for whatever reason, and we've known this over the 20 plus years we've been, earning money online, essentially, is for whatever reason, people pay from email you might say, well, I don't, but if you have a list of 10,000, we've had lists of 100, 200,000 people. And every time you send an email, you could just send like, here's what I did last weekend, and here's a link to buy my stuff. It's not even, you know, connected really, just sort of a friendly email that may or may not be interesting. People will buy the thing through the link somehow. Like that, we sell courses that way. So we try to provide value. Most people don't, but if the list is big enough, for whatever reason, it works. Anybody will tell you that, but it's true.
Well, basically, if anyone found you and liked you enough to give put in their email address, they'll probably want more of your stuff. And eventually, if they really like your stuff, they might even want a paid service that is related to your content. And then that's the whole strategy. We'll probably put this video in an email and say, would you like to buy some of our other stuff? Like, it's not a crazy system. It's not like we're reinventing the wheel here, but that's all you have to do really with email.
Yeah, and it's like some people may have already been thinking of buying it anyway over the last bunch of emails, and then all of a sudden your email, all it really did was remind them about you, and they might be like, you know what? Maybe today is the day I'm going to buy it. And if you don't do it with email, it just it just flops. I mean, you make 10 times more if you're running a proper email strategy. And we do talk all about that in our course, which we'll link to in the notes or whatever. But I think that is pretty good for the first episode here. What do you think at AI Growth Hacking Podcast?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much enough because we don't even know how it's going to look yet. And we like to get just it out the door, try one, because if you overthink it, what we find actually is it's not even any better if you spend like 10 years doing something. It's better just to dive right in and then try to watch your show and then improve later on.
Yeah, small little improvements and analysis paralysis, as you say. And you overthink it for a year because you want it to be great, and then you just do nothing, and your first one's going to be iffy at best anyway. So we'll think about how to improve the second one, but hopefully this was pretty good for today, and looking forward to hearing from you. If you want to write to us or comment, whatever you think, that would be great.
All right. Well, we will see you next time at aigrowthguys.com and the AI Growth Hacking Podcast. Similar name, but not quite the same.
There you go.